What I don't want is for them to only hear the parts that they want to hear and just throw away the rest, because that's a recipe for disaster. Welcome to Sunny Side Up Podcast. I'm your host, David, and as you can see, I'm by myself today. Friends couldn't make it, so just going with the flow. So today I'm going to talk about something that I find very important, and this is something that I thought about when I first started doing this, and that is sifting through all the information that you're given to today. It's when I first started thinking about doing this YouTube channel, I started following people, and I'll just read off a list of the YouTubers that I follow that kind of gave me this idea. So the ones that I follow are Dry Creek Wrangler School. That man is salt of the earth, to say the least. Alex Hormozi, he is a entrepreneur, fantastic guy, very, very sharp. Dre Drexler, he's a guy that's come up, and I've seen over the course of his YouTube channel him just grow and improve on everything. And he talks about, when I first started this, I was doing this, and now I'm getting better at it. So he's a great listen, and I think he's really come into his own in his niche of what he's trying to preach. Thomas Frank, I just started listening to him recently, but he's another good one. He's big on productivity, and I would just say productivity. Another one is Ali Abdaal, and I've mentioned him before, and he's also on productivity. But he's a really sharp guy, and I think he's very just keen on business and how to organize your life. So I think he's a good listen. Of course, I mentioned Jordan Peterson, and I'm going to venture to say that if you found me, it's probably because you found him first. And I cannot begin to compare myself to him. He has probably been studying psychology much longer than I have been alive. So I think he's definitely smarter than I am. And I can't begin to say that I'm anything like him. I just hope to not just piggyback off of his success like many other people are doing in the realm of self-improvement and whatnot, but I want to grow his message and try to share. And I know he's controversial, but you got to admire that he's a well-educated person. I don't think anyone can dispute that. The Tate brothers, again, controversial. And I'll explain my thought process of why I'm doing this video, but very smart, very clever businessman. Fresh and Fit podcast, along with the Whatever podcast. I think Fresh and Fit is a little bit more, I think the hosts of that show are a little bit more controversial in the things that they say, but again, very smart. And I'm just going to end it with Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro. And there's other ones too, but those guys are very smart. They are very level-headed people. And I think whether or not you can agree with everything that they say, you have to admit that they're at least level-headed thinkers. They're not waving their arms around, and I mean, Alex Jones says that. He's funny to listen to, but he's a little over dramatic for my liking. Some of the things that he says are pretty goofy. I just get a laugh at. But I think the Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro, they're very sensible people, I think, in general. All of that list that I just read off, I'm sure there are some people out there listening to this video. All of 9 subscribers I have right now, hopefully growing, fingers crossed. But I'm sure that there are people out there that hate these guys. They hate them with a passion. They would rather see them dead than anything else. And like the Tate brothers were recently in prison. It's June 17th right now. They just got out within the last couple months. And they would rather see him back in jail or dead. It's a shame that somebody that tells the truth, and I'm a supporter by and large of them, someone who tells the truth is criticized like that. It's happened all through history. A lot of the clever, smart philosophers throughout time have been exiled, ridiculed, or put to death. And I think they're one of them. In today's day and age, and I know we don't really consider, when you think of philosophers, you think, oh, back in Socrates' days which I believe he was before Christ. Oh, years ago, he sat around and just thought all day and worked out problems. And that's what they did. But there are modern day philosophers too. And I think somebody like Jordan Peterson or the Tate brothers, I think they're one of them. Now, the reason why I'm saying all this is because in general, I support all these guys that I just mentioned. Some of them are more controversial than others. So Jordan Peterson and the Tate brothers are much more controversial than like Ali Abdaal or Thomas Frank. They're simply how to improve your life, how to have a more productive schedule throughout your day. They're not saying controversial things. So there's a big range in the names that I've listed. But I think what you have to do with all the information that you extrapolate from the internet is pick and choose and sift through what you want to keep and what you don't want to keep. I had a former boss that I admired him greatly because he was very sharp, and I always thought that he was a fantastic person and a great leader. And he was in the military, so he said that he had officers that he liked and he didn't like. Now, he would take traits from the officers that he liked, and the officers that he didn't like, he would say, I'm going to make it a point to never be like that guy. So he would go out of his way to build the best person that he knew how to build. He would, like I said, take good traits and bad traits and mold them into the person that he is. And so I think, especially with the amount of information that you can receive from YouTube today, I think it's important to sift through and really think about, okay, why do I like this person? Why don't I like this person? And you got to think, what about this person do I like? Can I incorporate into my life? What can I learn from them to add to my bank of knowledge to carry myself through the rest of my life and to help other people in their lives? When I'm making this video, when I prepare for it, when I'm writing the script, sometimes I have a pretty good idea about what I'm going to say. Sometimes I don't. Just kind of going off the cuff here, but I want to make this video because I think it's very important to the purpose of my channel. I'm here to help you. I'm here to teach you anything that any kind of knowledge I can give to you guys. And that I'm on that list too. Maybe I'm going to say some things that you don't like that you can disregard. Maybe I hope I can help you with something that you can maybe incorporate into your life. I don't know what that is for you. That's up for you to decide. But I think, just the point I'm trying to make is that you have to sift through all the evidence. Now, when I bring up the Tate brothers, I admire them tremendously. I think they mentioned that they've grown up from poverty and were able to make money to live this lavish lifestyle. I don't agree with everything that they say. Even though I respect them tremendously, they've said some things that I just don't like. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the way that Andrew Tate I don't think he's serious, but the way that he's maybe talked about women, I don't really care for. And personally, I think that he is truthful, and he bashes, if you want to say, men and women equally. And I have mainly heard more women that dislike him than men. I think men are just much more simple-minded in the sense that when men need to get things done in life, they are much more simple to talk to, because those things that they need to do in life are much more measurable. So men are the protectors and the providers. Well, you can't protect if you're really weak and small, and you can't provide if you're not making as much money as somebody else. Not to compare yourself to other people, but that's a measurable value. I think God put men and women on this earth for duty purposes, like Andrew Tate says, each in their own right. And I think men, like I said, they're protectors and providers for society and family. And I think women are here for family. They are the giver of life, and that's what their innate nature is telling them to do, is, if you choose, is to nurture a family and care for people. Women are, by and large, much more caring than men are. And I think that's biological. If women are able to to give life, then they're much more, I think, attached to that child than, on average, than a man is. And so I think he understands that, and he knows, men are here to protect and provide, women are here to care and nurture. And I think so why I brought this up is when he criticizes men that are not doing what they need to do, it's a very measurable metric for him to describe. And especially, I'm a man, so I don't know what a woman needs to do, or I don't know what it feels like to be a woman. I don't know, because I'm not a woman. But I think when Andrew Tate criticizes men, it's much more measurable, and men respond better to simple criticisms. I think that's how men usually can say, okay, this is my fault, this is what I need to do to get better. And I think that's why I think men, by and large, don't have as much of a problem with what Andrew Tate says as opposed to women. I think women, it's harder to define, I think, what their roles are and what they need to do. They've talked about it before, like on the Fresh and Fit podcast with Andrew Tate, and Tristan Tate too. But I think by and large, it's easier to define what men need to do versus what women need to do. And I think that's kind of a gray area, and that's, I think, where the controversy and the harsh feelings, I guess you could say, that's why they're directed towards them. I think with Jordan Peterson, he's another one I respect tremendously. I have his book, one of his books, and I would say a lot more of what he says than what Andrew Tate says, but there are still some things, even though I have his book and I listen to him like he's the gospel almost, there are still some things that he says that I don't agree with. I think even for somebody like Jordan Peterson that I respect tremendously, there are still some things that I don't agree with. And like I said, I have his book. I listen to him almost daily. But like I said, not everything he says is something that agrees with me in my head. And if you think, there are several billion people on this earth. What are the chances that you're going to agree with everything that somebody says? Pretty low. So I think, and especially I know myself, I can be very impressionable. And so I have to watch myself to make sure when I find somebody new, like when I found Jordan Peterson, I instantly latched on. It's like, this is what we need. This guy is it. He is smart. He's not willing to suppress his own thoughts. He puts them out there. Whether or not you like him, you have to admit that he is a very strong person. He's not afraid to say what he wants to say. I admire that. But knowing that I'm an impressionable person, I have to watch myself. I have to make sure after listening, wait a minute, do I agree with everything he said, or is there something in there that I don't agree with? And I have to watch myself constantly, because like I said, I'm impressionable. It's very easy for me to pick up the persona, the personality, the traits, the conversations that these people have, and make it my own, in the sense that it becomes part of my personality. I remember when I was a kid, my dad and I would watch Clint Eastwood movies all the time, and I would, after the movie, pretend to be Clint Eastwood. I would walk around the house like he would, and I just think the way that he would, and that's kind of part of me, I guess. And so when I watch these guys, I have to check myself. I have to make sure I'm not walking around the house, going to shave my head, wearing sunglasses, wearing tight clothes, talking like Andrew Tate does. Like I can't be doing that. That's just me personally. But yeah, I have to make sure, and I think you should do the same. When you listen to somebody, it helps to write down the talking points of that video or that person and just review them. Is this something that I agree with? And I watch a lot of clips from the Fresh and Fit podcast, and I think Myron, he talks more than the other guy does, Fresh, and a lot of what he says makes sense. He's not the most kind and caring person. I think he's just very blunt. Sometimes he's a little rude, which I wouldn't do personally. But a lot of what he says is true. It's just cold, harsh truth. And one thing that I don't agree with that they say on the show, and I think the Tate brothers say, is it's okay for men to, at the top of the social hierarchy, run around town, if you know what I mean. They're not sticking with one girl. They despise when women do that, but they think it's okay for men to do that. That's an example of one thing that I don't agree with. I think they talk about human nature of men and women, and okay, I kind of get, I get the facts that they lay out when they talk about that, but I think personally, in my opinion, doesn't matter. You can listen to it or you can disregard it. It's up to you. But in my opinion, I think that if you start doing that, you're never going to be happy with one person, ever, because you're used to that constant change of partners. And I think it's bad for you and it's bad for the family. I can't imagine if you had two families, one with two parents that always were there, and one family where one parent was there and the dad was running around town, not there all the time. I can't imagine that the family where the dad was not there all the time, he was a playboy, if you want to use that word. I can't imagine that family would be better than the one that with two parents that stayed together helping to raise those children. And then I don't have kids, but if one day I do have kids and one of them is a daughter, I can't imagine raising a daughter, marrying her off to this young man that's running around with a couple different women. I can't imagine marrying my daughter off to that man thinking, boy, that's the best choice. I don't plan on raising my daughter to get partial attention if I have a daughter one day. I don't even have a daughter yet, and I feel very strongly about this. I don't want her to be on a roster of different wives or girlfriends of somebody. I want her to get all the attention that she deserves. And she can't get that attention if she's just one of many. I don't think any parent will want that for their daughter. I can't see that as, I can't see being related to any woman of value in my life and knowing that happened and being okay with that. I know some girls make their choice and that's what it is, but that doesn't sit right with me. And that's the common thread amongst these guys that I don't like. And the Tate brothers and the Fresh and Fit podcast, a lot of what they say makes a whole lot of sense. And it helped me tremendously. It really helped me to kind of wake up and say, okay, this is what I need to do. These are the things I need to accomplish in my life to have a good life. I've learned a tremendous amount from these guys. I've changed my perspectives in many different aspects of life for the better. I've really, like I said, opened my eyes and I've become more aware of realities in everyday life. But that is one thing that I just do not agree with at all. And with the Fresh and Fit podcast, I know they talk about the top 1% of men and women. And I get it. It's more interesting, it's more entertaining to talk about than the average Joe. I get it. But I think when, especially a lot of young men hear that, those podcasts and those guys talking, what I don't want is for them to only hear the parts that they want to hear and just throw away the rest. Because that's a recipe for disaster. I know a lot of young men get caught up in that realm of the dating apps and going to parties and not having commitments to one girl and all that. You know what I'm talking about. What I don't want is for young men to hear the parts that they talk about when they're mentioning men should go around town. They shouldn't commit to one before it's they're ready and all that. I don't want men to hear that and think, oh, I can do that. He said so. No. I mean, from the get-go, they're talking about the 1% of men. I'm guessing that you're not the 1%. Maybe I hope I'm wrong. I hope you have lots of success, but everyone can't be the top 1% of men. It's just not mathematically possible. There's not enough money in the world for that to be possible. So you have to realize what status you're in, what state of life you're in first before you start acting like them. But and who knows? I'm not a top 1% man. I don't know what I'll be like when I'm there. I hope I don't change, because I've made promises to myself of the people I want to help in my life. But I've yet to get there. And like I said, I hope I don't change. And if I do, I'm holding you guys accountable. Find me and smack me if I change. But what I don't want is for young men to hear this message and twist it to suit their own lifestyle. You can't do that. Like I said in the beginning, you have to take the traits that you like, think about why you like them, take the traits that you don't like, think about why you don't like those, sift through and build your best character that you know how to build.